Film formats have been in brisk competition since the late 1800s. Each format brings special skills and abilities while also having a number of drawbacks. For just about as much time, photographers have been squabbling about which format is best for photos. Those who have enormous budgets often demean and look down upon those photographers who don't have the fancy schmancy gear like them. So today, I'll be clearing the air and telling you exactly why those photographers are wrong and why the APS-C sensor format is the best for most photographers, including me. The two most prevalent formats for pictures are the 35mm full frame and cropped sensor APS-C style formats. These two formats are specifically designed to take still photos. There are many other formats like IMAX, Super 16, or 8mm, which are designed for unique video needs. Today, we'll be exclusively talking about the full frame and cropped sensors for digital photography. So what is full frame? Well, the 35mm format, or simply 35mm, is the common name for a sensor measuring 36 by 24mm, and it has an aspect ratio of about 3:2, and a diagonal measurement of 43mm. It's used in many different cameras, including DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, since commercial introductions first happened in 1925 with the Leica 1 camera. 35mm has grown to be the standard for photographers who have it all, as its status as a professional format allows it to demand much higher prices and more premium branding. So what's a cropped sensor, you might ask? Well, think of a cropped sensor as a little brother of a full frame. It does the same stuff, but it's smaller. Most cropped sensors follow the Advanced Photo System Type-C or APS-C format, which is approximately equivalent in size of an old film negative format measuring 25.1 by 16.7mm and an aspect ratio of 3:2. The APS-C format is not an exact dimensional measurement, it's more of a general size ratio. This means that there are many different APS-C variants depending on the manufacturer and camera model. This is the important difference. All APS-C variants are considerably smaller than the 35mm format. Because of this, devices with APS-C sensors are known as cropped frame, especially when used in conjunction with a lens and mount, which are intended to be used with 35mm sensors. So what does this mean? Basically, only part of the image that is produced by a full-size lens is actually captured by an APS-C sensor, simply because the sensor is, well, smaller. While a full-frame camera would take a picture like this, if using the same lens, a cropped camera would take a picture like this. So an APS-C image is effectively zoomed in when compared to a full-frame image when all else is kept the same. Most crop sensor cameras are cross-compatible with full-frame lenses, but not the other way around. This means that my crop sensor Sony is compatible with lenses designed for both full-frame and APS-C sensors. It's really the best of both worlds. It's physically impossible for a full-frame camera to use a lens designed for a cropped sensor camera because an APS-C style lens throws light in a smaller area. Each manufacturer and each model of camera can have a different sized APS-C sensor, resulting in a different crop ratio, because nothing in life can be simple. Let's get real technical real quick. I promise this will only take a minute. So the question is, what is a crop ratio? Well, it's the number that you need to multiply the focal length of your lens to get the equivalent full frame focal length. So as an example, I have a 50mm prime lens, and my Sony has a crop factor of 1.53. This means that my 50mm prime lens behaves a lot like a 76.5mm lens would on a full frame camera. It's really that simple. This crop factor number can be found for any APS-C camera, but most of them are around 1.5. Now that you've seen the technical differences between a 35mm full frame and an APS-C crop sensor, let's get out of the nitty-gritty and talk about how the rubber meets the road. Most professional photographers, aka the snooty ones, will tell you that a full frame sensor is superior. I'm here to tell you that given a choice between the two, an APS-C sensor is the better option 98% of the time. I couldn't be happier with the crop sensor that I use on a daily basis. Why do I think this? Well, first, APS-C sensors have had so much investment over the years that they rival full-frame sensors in almost all aspects of photography, save low light. Current APS-C generations have plenty of megapixels, great color accuracy, and super low noise. Secondly, on an all APS-C setup, you can get faster lenses at higher effective focal lengths for lower prices. How? Well, remember how I said that my 50mm prime lens is an equivalent of a 76mm on a full frame? Well, that means that I'm effectively getting an extra 26mm on any 50mm full frame lens that I buy, all for free. Why is this so important? Well, because super fast lenses, which have a wider field of view, are typically cheaper than their telephoto counterparts. If I wanted a 75mm f1.4 on a full frame, I'd need to drop just under $500. But I picked up this $119 50mm prime lens. Last I checked, $119 is cheaper than $500. Third, with the crop factor, you can get more telephoto out of your telephoto lenses. My 135mm telephoto lens actually behaves more like a 206mm telephoto lens, getting me closer into the action for much cheaper costs. Lastly, APS-C cameras are surprisingly compact. I don't know about you, but I don't care to drag a whole cart full of gear with me. I want something that's as small and as light as possible while not compromising on image quality. Most photography I do is guerrilla photography, where I'm on location in dynamic lighting environments and with moving subjects. I don't want any extra weight. In fact, this is why I was so ready to ditch my Nikon and switch to an iPhone for over a year. That's another video in and of itself. The one nice thing that I will say about a full-frame 35mm camera is their low light is typically better than APS-C sensors. This is because, fundamentally, a larger sensor can gather more light than a smaller sensor. Although if given the choice between an APS-C camera with an f1.4 lens or a 35mm camera with an f2.5 lens, I'd pick the APS-C variant every day. To those who are clutching your pearls right now and saying, "But my full-frame camera is so much better," I have this to say to you. Those who obsess over tools and not creativity will never get as far. Never depend on technology to make you a good photographer. It's not the tool, it's how you use it. People put way too much value on specs and megapixels and f-stops. Who cares? Does the picture look good? If it does, it doesn't matter what equipment you use to make the picture. Anyway, that's another video. I've been Nick. This is Nick Picks. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you in the next one.